Hi, this deck of cards was compiled to facilitate working through the MCAT style passage. Why do we believe that there are universal emotions? And the topics covered deal with psychological and biological foundations of behavior. The orbitofrontal cortex is associated with the processing of both positively and negatively balanced emotions. When activity is lowered in the left or right hemisphere, euphoria is experienced. So, which hemisphere, when calm, will elicit a feeling of euphoria or just happiness? All right, so the right side, the right hemisphere of the brain, when calm, will elicit a feeling of euphoria, okay? And the orbital frontal cortex part mentioned is this region right here. All right? Okay. The orbital frontal cortex is associated with the processing of both positively and negatively balanced emotion. When activity is lowered in the left or right hemisphere, depression is reported. So which hemisphere, when activity is lowered, will elicit a feeling of depression? I'll give you a moment to think. All right, so that would be the left hemisphere. And the side pictured right here is the left hemisphere. And note that this is a sagittal slice of the brain, dividing it into left and right sides. And the cut would go from, the rostral medial front all the way to the dorsal back, just slitting it down in half. And that's how you're able to get, well, we're looking at it, from the side, but this is sometimes how it's displayed in anatomy, human anatomy. Okay. S-R theory of emotion describes an event followed by a physiological response, fight or flight, which is then interpreted as a particular emotion, and then the emotion is perceived. So what theory of emotion is this? First, the event or the stimulus, 1. Then 2, a physiological response. That's the autonomic nervous system activating fight or flight. And then 3, the interpretation of an emotion. And 4, the emotion is then perceived mentally in the mind. So what is this? That would be the Schachter-Singer theory of emotion, okay? This is a good one to know. So let's say that, this nice lady was walking down the block and then she saw what is this, a Rottweiler? I don't know what kind of dog this is. It's like one of those police dogs or military service dogs and has like really ferocious teeth. So she's saying I labeled my trembling, that would be her autonomic arousal. As fear, that would be the emotion. Okay? Because she first appraised the situation as dangerous. So she first encountered the stimulus, not appraising anything, she just had some type of response. And then after her response, she had an appraisal, and then she consciously interpreted it as fear. So this is the sequence in the Schachter-Singer theory of emotion. Okay? The C blank N B blank D theory of emotion describes 1. An event, which 2. Elicits simultaneous physiological response and a perception of the emotion. Okay, so what theory of emotion is this? So first you encounter an event. That's 1, the stimulus, and your brain takes in the stimulus. And then right away you have a simultaneous physiological response and simultaneous perception. So these things would be mutually exclusive. So this is like a 2-step emotional interpretation process. So which theory is this? Okay, that would be the Cannon-Bard theory of emotion. And here we have this nice little old lady again. And what she's saying in this scenario is that the dog makes her tremble, and then she feels afraid. Well, not and then she feels afraid. The dog makes her tremble and feel afraid all at the same time. So we have 1, the stimulus, this ferocious service dog. Maybe she's going through airport security or something, and the dog is barking at her. Then you immediately have your subcortical brain activity. And then simultaneously, you have a conscious feeling of fear while experiencing autonomic arousal. An autonomic response would be trembling. It would be the fright aspect of flight or fright. Fight or flight. No, it would be the flight aspect, actually. I always confuse that. All right. The J blank S dash L blank E theory of emotion describes an event, so 1, the stimulus, which elicits physiological response, and then some type of fight or flight response. So what theory of emotion is this? While you're gathering your thoughts, so first we have the stimulus, 1, all right, and then we have some type of physiological fight or flight response, which eventually creates a conscious feeling or emotion. So this is the James-Lange theory of emotion, okay? So this is funny because common sense would say, I tremble because I feel afraid, because if you see a dog, you're gonna be frightful and then just, have some type of arousal. Most people don't even think about the sequence of events. This is just kind of what happens. But these smart dudes went and said the reverse. You see a stimulus and you automatically have some type of automatic arousal, and then you get a conscious feeling of fear in this situation. Okay? So they're saying, I feel afraid because I'm trembling. If you weren't trembling, then you wouldn't be afraid. You would be something else, is what these dudes are saying. The L blank S theory of emotion requires that interpretation must happen before arousal or emotion, which happens simultaneously. So they're saying 1, you have an event, and then you have 2, the interpretation of the emotion. And then 3, you have arousal or emotion experience occurring concurrently together. Okay? So what theory of emotion is this? That would be the Lazarus theory of emotion. So 1, you have your stimulus, and then the first response is, the appraisal of threat. And then the second response would be your body's autonomic arousal, okay? Or fear, or like trembling. So these can get a little bit hairy, the different theories of emotion, so really review them. Just look at the cards over and over again and you'll just automatically pick it up. Okay?